Hello everyone. Well, 2 entire solo killer chapters have been in the game since the creation of my last Never Ever Chapters video, that being Ken Kaneki. Yes, I said it right this time. I'm sorry for butchering it. And now the Five Nights at Freddy's chapter is out and fully released as well. Both were incredibly well done, as are all chapters that they release, so big ups to Behavior for knocking those 2 out of the park once again. 2 months ago, I made a video where I talked about and conceptualized some Dead by Daylight licensed chapters that I know for a 99% solid fact would never ever get into the game, with my reasoning being that Behavior would either never see a reason to acquire the license, or because it's just so far out there that it's really only left to the imagination. Well, after seeing its minor success, I decided that I'm gonna make another one. That's what a lot of parents say when they're on the high of having 6 to 12 children and really just want to go for another. And with my luck, this one just won't be as popular as the first, because whenever I choose to make a sequel to any video ever, it does significantly worse than the previous for some reason, despite the sequel either being asked for constantly or some other crazy reason I may not know. Not sure why this happens, but that problem is between me and Neil. Today I've got 3 more concepts that I've been thinking about for quite some time, to the point where I've once again thought of stuff for chase music, specifically iridescent add-ons, and perk ideas. And of course, your input in the comments also adds to the fun of this, so don't be afraid to critique my ideas or touch up on them, etc, etc. Now, in DBD, coming up with actual fleshed out and balanced perks can be very hit or miss, hence why I'm once again not doing a full-fledged 3 perk loadout, multiple 20 add-on thing today for everybody. There are over 200 in the game, and a big fear of mine is that I spend hours trying to come up with something fun and actually worth using, and then just find out that I may have recreated Save the Best for Last or something again. Besides, all killers have 20 whole add-ons that each do their own individual thing that has to do with an already fleshed out power, so, for the sake of time and my own sanity, I'll only be coming up with iridescent add-ons for the probable power that I made up for each killer today. If you all do want to see a full-fledged 3 perk 20 add-on fully fleshed out power idea for the next time I do this, which I'm probably going to anyways, please leave a comment below saying something along the lines of, "Sure thing, SadBulldog. I'd love to see that. Your hair looks great today. You're doing a great job. You are my favorite YouTuber. I will always support you. I love you. I will subscribe. I will comply." Okay, enough MK Ultra farming. Let's just get to the concepts. Just kidding. One more thing. Here are some honorable mentions for concepts I was gonna do before picking out my final 3 for today's video. And I know that none of these are really horror or anyone's first real picks, but these are just some other interesting ideas I shot out of my brain hole while making this video. Now we can get to the actual concepts. GLaDOS. The Genetic Life Form and Disk Operating System is an artificial intelligence created by Aperture Science, and the main antagonist of Portal 1 and part of Portal 2. An AI powered by a trapped soul, a monotone robotic voice able to be heard taunting you throughout your time at Aperture Laboratory while she oversees your progress in her sick experiments. But this voice has a face, or at least it had one. Now she's a mess of tangled wires, components, screens, cores, and optics. Still alive after decades of testing. This whole idea of transferring a human consciousness to an immortal machine was coined by Cave Johnson, the founder of Aperture. Cave Johnson's assistant, Carolyn, was so favored by him that his dying wishes were for her essence to be stored into one of Aperture's cores, eventually becoming GLaDOS. GLaDOS is the central core of the whole facility, designed to control, oversee, and manage the Enrichment Center, which is the site where the infinite testing and puzzles lie. For her power, actually wait a moment. Portal heads must be asking me right now, SadBulldog, how on Entity's Green Trial would GLaDOS even move around the map, let alone get into chase or do basic attacks? She's practically a modern art piece, like a woman tied up in the ceiling or something. Well, chuds and chudettes, I've got you covered. For her basic attack, I could only imagine one of those dangly bits coming loose and lunging forward, only for her to just pick it back up again and put it back into place or something. As for how she moves around, think Dracula, but instead of her kinda just floating there, there'd be like a dark cloud above some of her wires, implying that the entity has her attached to some sort of ethereal CPU so she can get around properly. Kinda like this. I hope you like my drawing, everybody. I think that'd be pretty cool, and it would also keep her in her most recognizable state, that being the dangle. I also imagine GLaDOS and the entity having a somewhat interesting parasitic type relationship, with an unexpected twist, having GLaDOS be the host, and the entity itself being the little addition. Since GLaDOS in Portal is in control of the whole facility and does all the heavy work around the place, like moving those living wall tiles and building puzzles on her own, I'd like to think that in the realm, the entity would just allow her to take some form of control over the trial itself, and the entity would only really contribute to the trivial and necessary parts, like a mutual agreement to work together. And by necessary parts, I mean, taking sacrificed survivors and blocking, generators. I'm sure that a killer that has control of the whole trial would give a lot of good emotions for the entity, such as confusion and dread from the survivors. Now, for her actual power, since I mentioned control, I'd like to imagine she's kind of like Singularity in a way, where her map pressure is at the highest peak it can possibly be, because she's always watching and listening. A concept that I came up with just before hitting REM sleep a few nights ago, in a complete daze, was that she would be a, now get ready for this, multifaceted killer. Yep, wouldn't be a modern DBD killer without 2 to 3 individual powers. Isn't that right, Vecna? For real though, I'd like to imagine her power involving her army of turrets, her love for puzzles, and of course, portals. For her first ability, I can see her being able to place turrets around the map that have a red laser sight and make their iconic sound. When a turret spots a survivor, it'll alert the AI with Killer Instinct, or maybe just a loud noise notification or something. And if a survivor is within sight of the turret for a few seconds, the laser would gain intensity, and the turret will enter attack mode. After it enters attack mode, it'll stay in attack mode until a survivor comes up behind it, or next to it, whatever, anywhere but the front of it, to turn it off, or push it over, or destroy it or something. Like you do in Portal. The only way to stop a turret is to tip it over. But if you're within line of sight during attack mode, it'll be able to shoot and injure survivors if they once again stand in the sight of the laser for a second or two. Okay, after revising what I've written, oh my god, I just recreated the Skull Merchant. That's just the whole basis of Skull Merchant's power. To place down a machine that has a damaging area if certain requirements are met. You can't be serious. Well, let's try that again. The turrets would only be able to see in a straight line, which is very different from a full radius. So that checks off as an original idea. And GLaDOS can place them like how survivors can place xenomorph turrets, where they can only be set in specific locations to avoid them sandbagging or getting in the way of any and everything. And the turn-off switch for the turret wouldn't be a whole code mechanism like Scully, but instead just a quick press of a button. Anyways, for her next ability, this is where we get to have fun with portals. I'd like to imagine that GLaDOS could shoot or summon portals on flat surfaces, which would then be accessible by both survivors and the killer, creating a million different possibilities for loops and absolutely mind-fucking each other with non-Euclidean fun. The portal gun arm attachment could create a blue and orange portal that pair with each other, obviously, and as I've said, can be traversed by both parties as a transportation system of some kind. But because Dead by Daylight is entirely spaghetti code, I know that this would be literally and physically impossible and would never ever happen ever, and I'm really just reaching for the stars now. But hey, you click this video and it's titled Never Ever Chapters, and the thumbnail says Dream Chapters with a picture of GLaDOS on it, so I don't know what the fuck you want from me. As for the interaction between turrets and portals, I'd like to imagine that if a turret were to be poking its laser through a portal, it instantly goes into attack mode, since the survivor could just run past the turret through the portal without any real issue with the whole build-up idea I had. An interesting high-skill idea I just came up with right now, involving that mechanic for an epic GLaDOS trickshot tech, could be placing a turret against a wall, shooting a portal at said wall, cutting off a survivor in a loop, placing a portal at that loop, and having them get shot by a turret a few dozen meters away from that portal. Now, to make that more fair and less of a situation where you could just be like,
why don't you just do the strategy at the beginning of the game and then just farm portal turret shots?
Well, you see, I think portals should vanish after a little while, giving both sides a chance to recoup, and to make it so you don't have a turret hiding in some area that survivors never go, with a portal against the wall so you always get free injuries. I really think that as methodical, cocky, and particular as GLaDOS is, she would have a lot of fun doing the killing on her own, rather than just letting her puzzles do it all for her. It's a nice change of pace, giving her a chance to finally feel no remorse for her actions. As for her perks, I'd imagine she'd have some involving her desires to constantly get results from her endless testing. Something like hitting survivors a certain amount of time gives you some kind of permanent buff, like that Kaneki perk, or some event-related perk that would, well, show off the results of your efforts. And for her eerie add-ons, if we're going off the revamped version of her power I made up right now, I think that maybe one of them would make portals grant haste or hindrance when walking through. Or maybe one that makes survivors scream if they walk through without your knowledge, to alert you of their tomfoolery. And maybe the other one could be for the turrets, so you can have a double eerie. Something along the lines of placing a turret makes you undetectable for 30 seconds, and the most recently placed turret has a terror radius of 24 meters. Something like that. But this is all up to interpreted conceptualization. I fucking love that word. Conceptualization. Great word. Now, on to everyone's favorite part of the video, the chase music. That's how I feel I differ from all these other fan conceptualizers. I lock in and make some partially believable chase music for my dream killers, just to breathe even more life into the concept itself, as crazy it may be. It's my favorite part of this whole thing. Chase music to me is what makes Dead by Daylight, Dead by Daylight. For GLaDOS' Terror Radius music, I tried to make it sound like she knows where you are at all times, with her presence being semi-omniscient and her monitoring being constant, but still maintaining the being hunted feeling of regular DBD chase music. I also tried to make it like Legion's chase theme, where it has an actual melody to it, to try and fit the Portal vibe of rock and robotic. I'd put it as if it sounds like she's got an entire fleet of machines at her immediate disposal and ready to be put to work. Portal is a very musical series of games, so I don't want to give the machine goddess a washing machine loop type chase, since the trials would be a heaven for her many, many experiments. I wanted the chase theme to sound like it's not too personal, but you're just a piece to a very complicated and maniacal puzzle. After all, she does what she must because she can. So, enough yap. Here's my rendition of the AI's chase.
There you are.
All in all, I really do think a Portal chapter would go very hard in the world of Dead by Daylight. Although, I will admit, GLaDOS doesn't fit as much as Bill and his undead constituents, I'd say, and I'm very happy that Left 4 Dead got into DBD so early on, but if we got another Valve chapter, ever, I'd be a big sucker for Portal, though it would most likely be Half-Life, which makes the most sense for the realm. But, personally, I do have more of an attachment to Portal, and I would not complain at all if we got a sci-fi killer from a video game origin. GLaDOS would perfectly fit the archetype of Big Brother, or in this case, Big Mother, is watching, leaving survivors never knowing when they're being monitored. Oh, and for a survivor, I would love to have Shell, but she doesn't even talk. Actually, she doesn't make any noise at all, so giving her screams and a voice would be just a bit jarring, I'd say. So alternatively, I could imagine a bunch of the original survivors getting outfits, like the testing getup that Shell wears, rather than her being in the game as an individual survivor. Anywho, on to the next one. How angry can a man get when losing loved ones? Your soul transforming into what it thought it couldn't. Every fiber of your being cast into a flaming hot pit of pure agony. Rage consuming your every cell. An invasion beginning the reign of hellfire on your world. Watching a beloved pet get stripped from you and maimed right in front of your very eyes. Trauma can change a man. As hell boils over, your rage transforms into a deep, bitter vengeance and an unyielding hatred to the demons that stripped your life away. Rip and tear. And anyone, anything that stands in your way will not be able to tell the tale. The Slayer is a man who has been transformed through unending rage like no other. Doom Guy, real name being Doom Guy, is a Marine that was dishonorably discharged from his line of duty after refusing to open fire at a crowd of unarmed civilians, and was later transferred to the UAC, a Mars military base, as a security guard. But, out of nowhere, all hell broke loose. Please just subscribe to the channel and wiped out hundreds of thousands back on Earth, and Doom Guy could do nothing to stop it. And during the war to ever expand their hellscape and army of demons, the Hellspawns would eventually come face to face with their worst nightmare, the Doom Slayer. He would rip and tear until it was done, taking on an entire fleet of those bastards by himself over and over and over again. That's Doom for you. You're a guy whose rage is unrelenting and will stop at nothing to defeat this evil. But hey, let's make him a killer in this game, so he can mercilessly slaughter innocent people that are, if you think about it, also trapped in this cycle for eternity. I mean, hell, Kaneki's not a bad guy, he's just kinda hungry. Even Trapper tried to fight back the entity, and he's like a super murderer supreme. And like, honestly, 90% of the women killers in this game aren't even bad people either. It's all really just a matter of circumstance, and the entity's twisted desires to get as much emotion as it can. And Doom Guy can surely provide, then. Stripping the Slayer of his goal to take back his planet from the demons that have ruined everything would set him into a complete frenzy, trying his hardest to find a way out, and possibly having a chance of ruining the entity's perfect creation. So, similarly to what the entity has done with the Spirit, the Hillbilly, the Deathslinger, and many others, it has twisted the Doom Slayer's vision into that of a demonic hellscape, you know, like he's used to. And the survivors are just scared little demons running away from the raging and unchained predator. Obviously, you ain't gonna see demons in gameplay, because this is all just made-up lore for my little dollhouse where I like to play pretend. But sometimes I feel like I'm one of the only people out there that would kill to see Doom representation in Dead by Daylight. But, because he's a protagonist and stands for the greater good, no one really sees the potential at all. Hell no, Doom Guy would not be a survivor. Are you fucking crazy? Doom Guy? Running away from his enemies? Oh please, I can't even picture him dropping a pallet like a normal person, for God's sake. He'd throw that shit at the killer. Anyways, I like to imagine Doom Guy's comeuppance into the trials as similar to Kaneki, a tragic tale of agony and demise, cast into a realm where seemingly the only way out is to let those dark urges unleash into raw violence. With Kaneki and many others, it's hunger and desire. With the Slayer, it's necessity. I think he would be a very horrifying killer to go against, and would put survivors in immediate danger when in the trial. For his basic attack, I could just see him using his freshly acquired arm blade, or just straight up punching, because he is Doom Guy after all. And because DBD is a very dark, gritty game, obviously the Doom Guy we'd be taking into the realm is from the modern games. I think that one just fits DBD more than the older one. But hey, that older suit could be like a skin or something. Anyways, I think for his power, it would have a lot to do with his weaponry and skills as a teched out Marine from Mars. An idea I had was the meat hook, an attachment for the super shotgun in Doom Eternal. Very obscure, I know, but trust me, I don't think giving this guy a full loadout of a bunch of guns would work out very well in anyone's favor. The meat hook is a device used to pull you closer to the enemy to get an easy shot in, but obviously blowing a survivor's brain out the back of their head in a trial wouldn't really suffice or be fair, so in this twist I'd like to make it more of a grapple. Think Deathslinger reeling in a survivor, but less of a dragging reel and more of a come here, fuck you, goodbye type attack. The Slayer would shoot out the meat hook, it would latch onto a survivor, you know, if you hit it, and yank them in, causing the yanked survivor to fly towards the Slayer as he grabs them by the throat, places the super shotgun at their torso, leaving them in a grab state for a moment, and when the Slayer has a hold of him and his gun pressed to their torso, this is where the fun part of the power starts. You can tell I've been thinking about this a lot. For about 2 seconds, the Slayer can look and move around, and position where he would want to send a survivor flying. That's right, baby! You get to blast survivors into next week by shooting them point blank with a shotgun. Shooting a survivor won't eviscerate them, sadly, but it would send them flying forward in whichever direction you send them in, and it would leave them in the mending state if they make contact with another survivor, which would also injure the other survivor. It's like this animation I made of the TF2 engineers 5 years ago on my laptop. And obviously, to make it fair again, he would most likely not be able to yank survivors from high walls or anything that isn't really an open area to yank efficiently. Although, blasting from second or first floors and dragging them up or down will be sick as hell, and he'd have a pretty lengthy reload animation, so that the survivor has time to run away too for distance. But I think I've just come up with another unique strategy that could get the best value out of this power. Like, you could probably zone a survivor by throwing them into an unsafe area, and during that lengthy reload animation I talked about, there'd be not much room for a quick escape for the survivor. Or you could throw them away from an almost completed generator, causing them to lose pressure, or you could literally just go for crazy body shots and smack them into other survivors. I think this power having some limitless potential could lead to some intense moments in a match. He could probably even get double taps, like launching a survivor at another injured survivor, and then downing the one he just threw for a double down. Games could get snowballed like crazy. Obviously as well, if you were already injured and he locks onto you, it may just result in a normal quick grab so he can hook you or something. But I'm not too sure about the fairness of that one, considering how I made the grapple so quick and brutal. Although there are hundreds more ideas I could come up with, I kinda dig the whole grab and shoot idea. It's incredibly violent, incredibly jarring, and in my opinion, pretty fitting for the guy. You know how hard it is to make a power for a character that turns enemies into mush instantly? Him taking full control of your survivor just for a brief moment is horrifying as is, and could really turn the tide of a match, depending on what, where, and who they get shot away at. For some ideas for eerie add-ons, I was thinking they should be other iconic weapons or important artifacts in Doom. Like the Iridescent Soul Sphere. That's a bit of an obvious choice, as it gives 100 health boost in all of his games, and is overall just a helpful tool for our guy. Maybe it would give the Slayer haste after a throw, or more grab time or something. Something cool like that, just help me here. For his other iridescent add-on, I was thinking of using another iconic weapon of his, this one being the BFG. It could do something like give the Slayer the ability to down a survivor instantly if they throw another survivor at him. Overall, I am very proud of this one. For the Slayer's chase music, I obviously wanted to go with the heavy, hot, boiling rage, but in song form, or reactive chase music for a video game about circling a bad guy around wood for a minute or so. I also made the brave decision to give him a 24-meter terror radius, since I see Doom Guy being the up-close and in-your-motherfucking-face type killer. Someone who, when approaching, you should know that he's here for you. To him, you're just another demon that needs expelling, a bug on his windshield. Using his upgrades from his second newest game in the series, more than his other guns this time around. Yes, I know, stripping Doom Guy of his iconic laundry list of weaponry will instantly kill this concept for some, but you have to remember, the entity feeds off emotion, and dead, maimed, brutalized piles of guts don't really have emotion. And Doom Guy's been doing this for a while, so, you know, I kinda just wanted to give our Slayer some competition for once. But also, since this is the entity's trials, both sides have a fair enough chance to outmatch each other, and as Doom Guy's rage builds and builds and builds until he can't contain it anymore. Now, be warned, as per Doom, this entire chase theme is very, very loud. So those that aren't used to the Doom soundtrack, please turn your volume down at least, like, I don't know, 20%, and you'll be fine. But Doom vets and Doom fans alike, I think your ears would be adjusted to this sort of volume by now. Obviously, if he was actually in the game, I really don't see this chase music being that loud, but rather transferring that loudness into intensity. But this video isn't called Never Ever Killer Concepts for no reason, as this would most likely never ever happen, and if I'm wrong sometime in the distant future, please come back and let me know. I'll probably be institutionalized after another incident involving a 4-gen loop at Crota's Pren against a Nancy. If you know, you know. Anyway, Watsits, please enjoy my rendition of the Slayer's chase music, and my first time really dipping into the heavy metal genre. All in all, for Doom, I'd love to see this come into fruition. Ever since playing all of the games for the first time, except for the Dark Ages, sadly, I haven't gotten to that yet, I have fallen in love with the series as a whole, and I see constant potential for his inclusion. But, and don't take my word for this, apparently the devs have stated that characters that are quote-unquote pure heroes don't have any chance in the fog, as they may show little struggle in their base series, and Doom Guy was apparently listed as a character that wasn't applicable. As a survivor. Hence why I should be a fucking killer then, because he kills people! Real event turned tourist attraction turned bobblehead turned movie, the Cocaine Bear is something that not a soul on this planet would ever unironically want coming to the vast and very serious world of Dead by Daylight, up until right now. Cocaine Bear is a 2023 comedy horror/thriller movie that was a comedic retelling of the real-world events of Cocaine Bear, which was a 175-pound black bear from Tennessee, rightfully dubbed Pablo Escobar, or Cokie the Bear, and other such Ursa drug-related puns. The many nicknames were given to her for an event that occurred in her home, the Wilderness, where a group of drug smugglers dropped a freaking load. Where a group of drug smugglers dropped a load of cocaine from an aircraft, thus leading to our girl finding and consuming pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds of cocaine at a time. Just a light snack, you know. Now, sadly, the real bear expectedly overdosed and died shortly after consuming the bricks of cocaine, being taxidermied and shipped into Kentucky, where she is still there for the public to visit and appreciate. I wonder what she saw, what she felt. Was the high really worth it, Cokie? But we're not putting a real animal that died tragically from a drug overdose into the fog. Instead, we're adding a fictional animal that didn't die tragically from an overdose. Cocaine Bear, the movie, is a comedic yet theoretically horrifying interpretation of what would happen if the iconic bear from the legend actually ended up addicted to the stuff instead of dying. And I thought it would be interesting to give a genuine concept to her, because for a little bit now, a genuine want of mine in Dead by Daylight is an angry, raging beast. Just like an animal, you know? No supernatural, no entity magic, no screwing with their head, just a straight up predatory, hungry, scared fucking animal. Imagine a P100 mountain lion running up. Imagine a P100 mountain lion running around RPD, looping you at a fucking god pallet. Please tell me I'm not alone with this. You're telling me that I'm the only one on this planet that just wants a straight up animal as a killer? Huh? What do you mean I could have just chosen Cujo? Well, folks, we're a little too deep into the Cocaine Bear thing, so I may as well just give the idea of a raging beast a twist by having it ingest a 3-pound brick of drugs to get stronger. For the bear's power, here's what I've been thinking of. When the trial begins, there are bricks of cocaine around the map that the bear can ingest. But the twist is that they're relatively well hidden, given good RNG, and they can be tracked down using some kind of sniff or tracking tool that will provide some scent trail to give away the general location of cocaine, also known as a nose. Now, I think sniffing should be a toggleable thing, so it's not active all the time, and you won't just randomly have to stumble upon a brick, so an unlucky survivor that just so happened to be looping that brick will be fucked because of what happens after ingestion. So, in order to make Cocaine Bear feel like a bear that's actually addicted to cocaine, I think that finding cocaine should be the utmost priority at the start of a match. Like getting an early Ghostface 99 almost immediately can secure some heavy snowballing, or finding the box as Pinhead before survivors get to it. You know, those kinds of situations. Having to look around areas where survivors are not so you can get higher value out of playing the killer is a bit of a challenge and can waste a lot of time for sure. So in her cokeless state, she should just be at least a regular M1 killer and get some kind of initial scent in the beginning of the match to let you know the general direction of where a brick would be. I don't know about you, but I think early game assistance would greatly benefit killers that need to physically get from point A to point B to get their power. You know, like Trapper and Hag. Since Bear is technically a seek-and-find killer, but with no aura for where her power activators are, I think giving her an initial scent at the very beginning of a match would be necessary. The literal only way to get power in this concept is to run around and obsessively look for it, like you're addicted. I think that fits the Cocaine Bear very well. Now, what happens when you consume the good shit? You are a 175-pound black bear on crack. You're angry, and you don't know why. You must unleash your fury. What do you think an animal would do with these thoughts racing through their mind? Kill something! When the bear eats cocaine, she'll get enraged and let out a map-wide roar. After this, she'll be slightly faster and can charge up a mauling attack where she can lunge forward and tear a survivor to shreds, putting them in the down state immediately. That's kind of all I got, really, for her concept. I don't know what else to say about it. It's kind of like the Oni, in a way, like, you know, he has to run around, find blood, get mad, and then kill. Come on, there are 40 killers in the game. It's a bear. It's a fucking bear. It's really as simple as find, drug, consume, kill, calm down, repeat. You know, like I said, I've been trying to act like this idea wasn't stupid as hell to begin with, but I'm just gonna admit it now. There are probably 2 people alive that want Cocaine Bear and DBD, me sadly being one of them. I think that when Dead by Daylight eventually, runs out of licenses, that's when the bear would be a perfect fit. When the big surprises have simmered and it's time for the ones that get picked last during dodgeball in middle school. And now for her iridescent add-ons, obviously I'd have to go with an iridescent brick of cocaine. This would have the bear begin the match in enraged mode, and have it last like 2 minutes or something, and then decrease the amount of bricks laid out through the trial for the sake of fairness. And I guess the other would be like a ripped shirt or something, to give a reference to the movie. This would give a scent trail to where survivors have been hanging around, as opposed to leading you to the bricks, which, you'd have to find on your own, and would probably give you their aura within like a 4-meter radius. And now, for the bear's chase theme, I was actually struggling for days, physical days of my life, to come up with a chase music for an angry, raging, fucking bear, but also a coke-addicted menace that just wants to party, while also trying to match the vibe of the movie's original soundtrack, which is mostly trap beats and, default movie chase music. Which, by the way, I was trying really, really hard to avoid making another DBD default track that would randomly cycle through the bunch that the music list killers get. But all I can really say is, I tried to fit the exact fucking vibe I heard in my head, but no, I am not proud of this. And this is by far the worst chase theme I think I've ever made, but hey, it's gonna be someone's favorite, and that's all that matters to me. For the stupidest concept of all, it kinda should have a stupid chase theme, huh? Anyways, without further ado, this is my rendition/attempt at what chase music would sound like for a video game if you were running around a bench 20 times, and your only defense is a shabby piece of wood in a life or death chase with a bear that is high on cocaine. Enjoy. Well, those are all my ideas for today. I hope you all liked it, and if you want more in the future, again, I'll be sure to keep this up. I really hope you all enjoyed. I'm incredibly dehydrated. Please like and subscribe, as well as consider becoming a patron. Thank you all for watching, and how do I end this again? Oh yeah, bye-bye.